This is part 2 of a 3-part tutorial for adapting my rifle animations to a completely different weapon. In this case, I'm doing a longsword. These tutorials will give you the blueprint for doing this with different 1- and 2-handed weapons, as well as modifying animations to achieve different postures and poses, like rifle down, for example. The general framework is straightforward. Get your idle pose right first, which we did using the equip animation in the first part of this tutorial. Link for that is in the description. Now that we have that equip, which ends with the idle start pose, we'll start part 2 of the tutorial by saving off that pose to our library, and then we'll use that to modify the idle to run transition, and then move on to the run loop, getting that to match before finishing it off with the run to idle, the unequip, and the idle loop. I'll show the idle to run and the run cycle, as those two are the more difficult cases, and they show everything you need to know to do all the others. In part 3, we'll then cover the final touches, which in this case is really just getting the hand posing how we want across all the animations. Now for part 2. Let's get into it. We'll move on to modifying the next animation, and we select all the controls. I typically, at this point, since I'm no longer doing arced motion, I would switch everything into IK, but the IK will come along with the FK when we select this pose. So we want to select every control except for global, root, and body. So we'll start at thigh. We'll go back up. I have a picker that makes it much easier for me to just go grab every one, but I want to show you how to do it without any. So we go down to starting at thigh, we roll down to the bottom, and now we have everything but the positional controls at the bottom. And we can go to poses. So I'm just going to add a pose, and we'll call this longsword idle pose. Create that, and so now we have our longsword idle pose. Control-Shift-S to save everything. So I've got all my things selected, which is kind of annoying. I can deselect them, hit G, and then just say capture thumbnail. That'll clean it up. You can just move your camera so that you get it just how you like it. We'll move this over to the side. Now we'll go to our next animation that we want to modify. So that was equip from back. So the next one is going to be idle to run. And then, because that'll effectively show you how to change the idle, it'll show you how to change everything that you care about. So if we go to idle to run, edit in sequencer, bake to control rig, asking me to bake it. Close this down. And this one starts with the sword already in his hands. So let's go ahead, and we now want this pose, because this was the idle pose. So we want it to use our longsword idle pose. So we're going to go select this. I'm going to come over here and hit G so we can see everything. I'm going to select my longsword idle pose. I'm at frame 0. I'm going to select controls, which just select everything that we're going to modify. And I'm going to paste this pose in. So sure enough, I should now have my starting pose. And obviously, as I move out, it's just going to go right back to the old animation. But this gets me the pose I'm looking for. And now I know I want to be in IK. So I'm going to switch to IK from this point forward. So we'll go to the global control, go down, select them, delete all the keys past the first one. And now we're going to put the sword in his hand so we can do what we normally do. Plus parent constraint, select the person. We know we want that to go into the sword socket. We know we need to remove the offset. And so, all right, so now we've got the start. We also know we want him to be in this same position at the end. But if you notice, there's some dynamics to how the arms are moving that I think I'd like to bring along for the ride. So I'm going to show you how to do that. The best part is we don't need to worry about this left hand at all during the entire event. We can just parent it to the sword and be done with it. So we go back to frame 0. We add a parent constraint to the sword just like we always do. And in this case, we're going to maintain the offset, but we're going to not use a dynamic offset. So now the sword is already moving, but we just now need to fix the posing. Again, because the right hand is the captain now, that's the only thing we have to fix here. So let's go take a look at what it did. And what I like to do in this case, since I know what I want to happen, is I like to first pass, since I know this is my golden pose right here on frame 0, and I have this shift. A lot of times what I like to do is just grab these and see what happens if I move them up so they match. This could be a little time consuming and it may not pan out, but it doesn't really actually matter if it pans out, but it's just a good thing to do if it makes sense. So if it ends up looking clean, because a lot of times it will. That actually is not that far off. I'm just trying to make a nice a fluid motion that occurs in all these cases. Yeah, so see, this is just a nice little minor. Just line it up. And you kind of want to follow that trend line of whatever the animations are telling you. See, so yeah, this one's coming down at like a 30-degree angle. So we kind of want to make a 30-degree angle between it and the key before it, just like that. And then the last one, this one's pretty flat. So let's leave it pretty flat. And so what this is going to do is to keep your animation from looking robotic. This may or may not work. Oh yeah, yes, okay. The way I designed this, the start run animation, is I have him push the rifle forward a little bit as he leans forward with the body. It's a kind of essentially leading motion for the run to start. Awesome. Now, for example, it may be that I don't like, for my running pose, I want to think about where I end up. And so that's how he's going to look during the run. And it may be I don't like that. So we're going to do a few things. When he's running, he actually probably would hike the sword up a little more physically, like from a body dynamics, body mechanics perspective, he would hike the sword up. But in my case, I'm just going to try to create a more dynamic movement. So I'm going to actually bring it down a little bit and out a little bit. And so in this case, now we have a blend to do. So what I would do is, again, I'm just going to walk through each of these and figure out how I want them to end up. So I'll delete, in this case, I have this nice big slope, so I can take advantage of that and just smoothly. And the reason why I'm not just deleting all these keys and having it smoothly go in is some of these imperfections end up making it look more organic, make it look a little more natural. So I don't necessarily want to ruin anything. All right, I don't want to get rid of all this information that's available. So that actually looks fine. Yeah, this one's got to come down. So there's a moment right there where we can just more smoothly come down into this posture. Like, and I'm just going to get rid of these because I think it could be a little more. Okay, we still got to fix the, as you see, he just snaps into the rotation. Don't worry about that. And you can do this piecemeal, like you can just do it a part at a time to say, yep, that's where I want them to end up. Then you realize these don't do anything good for me. And then I don't like that sudden, there it is. So that's gonna be a little more fluid. Yeah, that's good. Nothing wrong with that one. Nothing wrong with that one. All right, there we go. So now he works his way. See how he just slowly brings the sword out during the run. And so now you have everything you need to go do the run loop. We'll go to this end pose. Again, we'll select all the body controls. I'm going to show you a real quick way. Now that we've made that other pose, we can go select all the controls really fast. We have a mini picker built into our pose window. So if I go select this and I just hit select controls, I now have them all. And I can click select create pose, and then this will be run, longsword run pose. And so now we're ready to go do the exact same thing I just did, but now we're going to do it on the two edges of the run. And if your controls go away, you can hit G. If that doesn't help, you can go select CR mannequin body, and that should bring them up. As per usual, we will do a couple things right off the bat. We will parent sword to the socket. And we will there we go. Now everything's in IK, just how we like it. And so now we can get to work. So we go to poses. Okay, so you go select all controls and you see, well, this is problematic. These are not all the controls I want. So really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say I want the body and everything up from from the body. So I'll just go pick them because it's not going to take that long. At this O, and you certainly would have, we would have done all of the hand posing necessary, but I'm just going to leave the hand posing alone because that's just polish. All right, so I have the elbow poles. I've got all the stuff that I'm looking for. And if I want to be able to select these at a later date, I can just go create a pose and just call this upper body selector. And so now we have an upper body selector, but what we can do is go find our run pose. And we can paste it in just to the upper body. So now you notice the lower legs, just the legs in general didn't move, the hips, everything, and we're good. So now we can go make that apply. And so what I want to do is, since I know I want to end at the same spot where I began, we need to go edit this this frame right here. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to go in and I'm going to paste the pose again. So now what that's going to do is, as I go change everything, I got to go change all of these curves so that they line up more cleanly. And remember, I could just delete them all and have it just upper body stay perfectly stable. But that's just not going to look natural. So what I need to do is now I need to go through every one of these controls and smooth it out. Since you've already seen me do it with the idle to run, we'll go on time lapse so you can see this happen. One thing I do want to talk about while we were doing this, to move these up and down, when you don't have to go in and hover and select over these things. You can just anywhere in here hold the middle mouse and that'll do it. But what I'm trying to do here is, if you notice the inbound tangent as this is moving up to these, I try to look in terms of, so I have to line it up in such a way, like right here, he's going down, and as it loops around, he's immediately going back up. So that's going to cause a discontinuity. So instead, what I want to do is select all of these and try to make it as clean as I possibly can, to where I'm getting, he's going up and that continues that upward trajectory. So that'll make it look a lot more continuous through the loop. That's just one thing I wanted to mention as we do this, to look out for. And lastly, my favorite part, let's fix that left arm. And fixing the left arm is super easy, because once again, all we have to do is select it, go to parent, put it on the sword, and we're there. And now we have a run animation, which you could decide, hey, I don't like that, I don't like how it looks, and go change it. That's what I've just shown you how to do. How exciting. Okay, so now we have 3 of the 6 animations: equip from back, idle to run, and run. So I've shown you essentially an upper body only modification. I've shown you a non-looping, go from idle to the run. And then I've shown you the most complex looping issue, which is adapting the run to that new pose. So you could do this for pistol, sniper, baseball bat, whatever. Change the posture of the weapon. You now have complete control over the dynamics of these animations and how they look and what weapon they're for. Additionally, I've taught you everything you need to know to now go do the run to idle and the unequip back to the back. I've already shown you all the tools you need to go do the rest of it, so I'll provide the other 3 animations. You should now have the tools to do all the rest of the animations needed, the idle, the run to idle, and the unequip to back. But if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments or reach out on Discord, and I'm happy to make more tutorials. That's it. Thanks for watching.